Good evening, everyone. Just tapping in tonight. Um, Wanted to share some thoughts and read some books, show y'all what I'm into, what I've been reading. Um, just trying to keep the mind, body, and soul right and all in alignment. You know what I'm saying? Um, let's see here. First of all, I'd like to start off saying I gotta get this going too. First of all, I would like to start out saying that I believe all black people in the United States. Hold on, let me get this going before I start what I'm saying. I believe all black people in the United States, all jokes aside, the closer we get to November and the closer we get to this election, um, we already see, where things are as far as tension, as far as disagreement, conflict. The tensions are definitely high, and I think that this is the most important time for blacks in this country to come together and unite one way or the other. I believe things are going to get dangerous for black people, unlike any other time that we've seen in our lifetime. Maybe our parents and our grandparents, have seen some pretty dangerous times and lived through some pretty dangerous times and experiences. And but as far as our generation and our time right now, I think this is probably potentially the most dangerous time to be black in America and black in the United States. And on that night of the election, I think that you should be around your family, your loved ones, your people, your village, your unit. I don't think any black person should really be alone that night. Um, I don't think any black person really should be in an area where it's predominantly not your kind, to put things simply and to put things in mild terms. Um, because I do believe that it's coming to that point. I do believe that we're getting to a point where it's like we're gonna start to see people's true colors in this country, and we're gonna start to see people's true feelings and true perceptions that they've always had and always kept hidden. Um, I think it's gonna get very controversial on a lot of levels in a lot of different ways, and I think that like I said before, I think now is the best time more than ever for you to come together with your people, come together with your family, check on your elders, check on if you have handicapped, people in your family, check on them, um, and kind of try and get everybody together again and reconcile some type of, common ground, some type of agreement. Because, like I said to my family, I told my family, if things were to really break out and go crazy, it's like any type of animosity, any type of disagreement, any type of beef, any type of hostility would go out the window, you know, and it wouldn't be, um, you wouldn't be thinking about what problems you have with your, you know, family member or with your close relative or whoever, you know, that you've been on bad terms with. It's like, you know, all that will go out the window, man. And I remind people all the time about January 6th, 2021, right after he got, you know, elected and about to do the whole inauguration and all that. Uh, what we saw and what we witnessed happen at our own capital that day, it's like you can think it was staged, you can think it was fake, you can think whatever you want to think, but just the fact that it happened and it happened on at our capital, that lets you know right there just how far they're willing to go, and how far and how much damage they're willing to do, um, even right you know, to in their on their own soil, right in their own home, right in their own backyard. You know what I'm saying? It's like you see how far that they're willing to destroy everything for everyone. They're willing to make it bad for everyone, including themselves. Um, if they don't get their way, if things don't go the way that they want them to go, and even still, you know, it's like even if things go the way that they want them to go, it's like that still gives them the justification in their mind and in their logic. It still gives them the entitlement and the right to um, destroy and brutalize and be violent and destructive. You know, it's just a very uncertain, unsettling way of life here, um, when it comes to these political differences and racial differences, and just how everything was started and how everything was built and how everything was manufactured and incorporated. You know what I'm saying? It's unfortunate how, you know, that's where we come from, and how things originated, how things started, and here we are now. You know, um, we have a man that's literally running for president who is a convicted felon, and has, you know, more than enough reasons, I guess, to not be in the position that he's in. But it's like here we are. You know, it's like you couldn't even put this stuff in a movie. You couldn't even make this stuff up. You know what we're watching right now and what we're seeing. Um, that same person made it very clear that it'd be a bloodbath if he didn't get elected, and he feels like if he did get elected, that he'd be the one to prevent World War III. And it's like, let me tell you, World War III is going to happen regardless, and World War III already started, even right here on the soil. Um, you know, amongst law enforcement and minorities, amongst law enforcement and blacks, it's like it started already. You know, World War III has been started, and World War III is on us. You know, it's unfortunate that it's that way, but this is the way it is now. This is here where we are, and like I said earlier, if blacks don't figure out, if blacks in this country, if if blacks in this country don't figure out some type of common ground and some type of agreement amongst themselves and amongst each other, even amongst, you know, even individually, um, you know, starting at home, starting with your family. If you haven't been on good terms with your kids, this is the best time to get on good terms with your kids. If you haven't been on good terms with your siblings, this is the best time to get on good terms with your siblings, because what's coming down the pipe eventually, you're definitely going to need each other. You're definitely going to have to be there for each other. like I mentioned in a video a couple of days ago, we're gonna have to all get comfortable doing things that we're uncomfortable doing, and all gonna have to get used to doing things that we're not used to doing, and we're gonna all have to be open to learning new things, and we're gonna have to be open to doing more with less, and being able to sustain and preserve more with less. You know, it's getting that real, it's getting that serious. Um, if the grocery stores were to shut down tomorrow, it's like so many of us would be completely asked out, shit out of luck. So many of us would be completely just unaware and unknowing of what to do next, and how to survive and how to provide and how to, you know, survive and be resilient to the elements that are going to come. Simple, you know. Um, the stuff they put in these movies, it's like it's real. It's like people. This is really how people act. This is really how people respond to things. People panic. People act out of impulse. You know, people act out of emotion. People act out of fear. It's a common thing. You know, it's like that's why it's so easy to make these movies, because this is exactly how people act. And when it comes to desperation and survival, you'll see the worst side of people every time, and it'll never fail. So prevention and preparation is the best solution. Um, it's the best security. Um, it's the best, you know, blueprint that you can have to any type of successful survival out here once things do hit the fan, and once things do, because it's already happening. It's just like, you know, it's happening right before our eyes. Um, they over there in the Middle East blowing people up, shooting and sending rockets and missiles like it's a video game, man. You know what I'm saying? And killing people, killing children dying. So this is like every day. You know, we wake up and go to work and live an everyday life and a normal life, forgetting that there's actual wars going on right now. You know, so and so many people that are regular civilians and they've never had any type of military experience or military service, or never really known anyone that has. It's like, man, it's like they have no idea about war. You know, they have no idea about how bad things can get and how quickly things can escalate, and the level of inhumane events and acts that can happen just like that. You know, we literally can wake up tomorrow and our whole lives can be different. You know, just last week when the outage happened, everyone was affected. The whole world was affected. There was no one that wasn't affected somehow, some way, to some degree. And unfortunately, it's like something like that can happen any given moment, any given day. And it's just like, are we really prepared for that? Are we really ready for that? You know, but that was just something I wanted to share, something I wanted to kind of get off my chest, because I just don't want no one to be caught off guard, and I don't want no one to be a victim to the hostility that thrives here and lives here and has been rooted here for centuries, you know, towards us. And I think a lot of people are getting a rude awakening to that right now, and a reality check to that right now, you know. And everything I'm speaking about now, for those that know me personally and know my journey, my story, I've been speaking about this for at least the last 10 years now. You know what I'm saying? Realistically, the last 8 to 6 years now. And it's just so crazy because now everything is slowly coming to light. And like I said, I feel like a lot of people are getting blindsided because they're just always turned, the other cheek and looked the other way and never really opened their eyes and awakened to what's going on to us right here. That's why I tell people all the time, this pandemic that happened 4 years ago, it really slowed things down, and it really forced a lot of people to look themselves in the mirror. It forced a lot of people to be parents. It forced a lot of people to be a husband, be a wife, be a partner, a companion. It forced a lot of people to just simply reflect on areas and look at areas that needed some desperate attention, and correction and redirection. And it also highlighted a lot of corruption and things that just wasn't right. And it slowed things down so much to a point where it's like you were forced to see just how wrong and how messed up things really are amongst us in this country. And something as simple as toilet paper was a disaster. Something as simple as wearing a mask, something as simple as a cough or a sneeze. It was literally bringing people to their worst sides, and it's like the worst parts of people were being exposed and being shown. And it's just unfortunate that if that's the level and the extent we will go to over something as simple as toilet tissue, you couldn't imagine it being water, you couldn't imagine it being food, you couldn't imagine it being shelter, you couldn't imagine it being something that we need every day to live and survive and thrive. That's the unfortunate thing is how fast everyone becomes inhumane, how fast everyone resorts to violence, how fast everyone is quick to fly off the handle and quick to just throw it all away. But I'm not gonna disclose any titles of the books I'm reading. If you want to know the names of the books I'm reading, you can simply email me, ask me, and I'll happily refer those name of the books. But we're just gonna keep the title of the names confidential until then, and we'll go from there. But just listen to the message, not the messenger, if that makes sense. Discovering my conscious awareness. The 12 pathways give you a complete solution to every emotional problem in your life. Whenever you experience uncomfortable emotional waves, you will find that the pathways are always ready to steer you around the rocks into the peaceful waters. 10th pathway. I am continually calming the restless scanning of my rational mind in order to perceive the finer energies that enable me to unitively merge with everything around me. When our wonderful biocomputers are dominated by our addictions, our consciousness is scattered and harried. Our consciousness is then like a television set that drifts from the channel that turns off when we want to use it. That sometimes won't stay turned off when we wish to sleep. That is subject to fading, and that will tune in only the lower channels. We would not tolerate this type of performance from a television set, but unfortunately, most of us are so accustomed to the poor performance of our minds that we often accept such inefficiency as normal. Hmm. What is meant when the 10th pathway tells you to calm the restless scanning of your rational mind? As you grow in awareness, you will begin to realize that the activity of your rational mind is generally sparked by your security, sensation, and power, power motivations. You are trying to hold on to something you do have, get something you don't have, or avoid something you don't want. You discover your rational mind has become a pawn commanded by your ego to rationalize your security, sensation, and power demands and expectations. You begin to see that many of the clever things your rational mind devises to say to other people just turn out to be separating and alienating responses that keep you out of the us space. As you lessen the heavy load of addictions you have been carrying, your rational mind becomes quieter and quieter, and you begin to increase your insight and perceptiveness. You begin to have a choice that was not available before regarding the things that you say and do. You begin to tune in to the finer energies around. You begin to tune in to the finer energies around you when the precious space on the screen of your consciousness is not occupied by the emergency alarms triggered by your addictive security, sensation, and power models of how the world should be. The living love way enables you to live in this powerful realm of higher consciousness by setting you free from your addictions, goals, and expectations that you have unknowingly programmed as essential to your happiness. For the structure and function of your biocomputer are such that this addictive programming triggers your thoughts, ideas, and words in a persistent and dominating way. The cultivation of preferences in place of addictions does not keep your rational mind churning and scanning for preferences, are not sought after goals that keep you restless with preferences. You simply flow along in the nowness of your daily life. Whenever the here and now offers you a choice, you pick the one that most fits in with your preferences. But either way, everything feels all right. Your rational mind is not excited into restless, striving activity. Preferences let you stay in touch with the here and now in your life. They enable your mind to become calmer and calmer until it functions as a powerful, quiet, one-pointed, peaceful, effective servant to your consciousness. Y'all already know what time it is. Yo, this is cool, man. I didn't know you can zoom in like that. Alright. Interesting. There is no analogy between the two cases. The Irishman is poor, but he is not a slave. He may be in rags, but he is not a slave. Not all Irishmen agreed with him. Everywhere he went, Douglass knew he had to continue working wonders and serving, as one Irish observer put it, the living example of the capabilities of the slave. But to the whispers that he was an impostor which surfaced, Douglass said in Belfast, he responded with both anger and humor. Dubliners, he said, had not needed so much as a letter of introduction, nor had anyone else at his dozens of speeches around Ireland, but with biting sarcasm, he declared of his new hosts, "What sensible people you are in Belfast! How cautious lest they should make a mistake." On December 23rd, 1845, Douglass delivered a bravura effort about slavery and religious corruption to a mixed Belfast audience of Catholics and Protestants. In an oration that included at least 10 direct uses of paraphrases of scriptural passages and parables, Douglass turned Christian principles into weapons against pro-slavery religion in his own country and in the British Isles. This forceful performance offended some of his auditors, while others all but fell over laughing and cheering. Caustic and snaring, Douglass demolished the very idea of a Christian slaveholder. They could not serve God and Mammon, and they blasphemed in claiming any fellowship with the meek and lowly Jesus. He lifted Matthew 23:15 to condemn Christian man-stealers and cradle plunderers, as Christ denounced the scribes and Pharisees when he said that they would compass sea and land to make one proselyte, and after they had made him, he was 10 times the child of hell, and he challenged the anti-slavery consciousness of his audience. Would they be the priest who would not even see the suffering man by the side of the road, the Levite who looked and felt sympathy but chose a middle course, in quotations, and moved on? Or would they be the Samaritan of compassion who bound the wounds of the victim? Or would they make Daniel's choice to break the law, never worship an earthly king's false gods, and risk death in the lion's den? With his memory still swirling with revenge against Thomas Auld, Douglass assured his well-churched Irish crowds that a man becomes the more cruel, the more religious element is perverted in him. It was so with my master. Douglass had learned to seamlessly weave biblical stories into his oratory with compelling effect. During Douglass's months in Ireland, the potato crop began to fail, and the greatest catastrophe in Irish history took hold in the countryside. A new fungal disease was first detected in Dublin in late August 1845. Just as Douglass arrived on Irish shores, its worst effects did not set in until a second wave of the potato blight in 1846. Within the next 4 years, approximately 1 million Irish would die, first of epidemic infections, then of horrible dietary deficiency diseases, and finally of outright starvation. Another 2 million would immigrate to the United States and Canada over the ensuing decade. The social, demographic, and political legacies of great Irish famine still reverberate to this day. In the 1840s, 2/3 of the Irish population of 8.2 million made its living from subsistence agriculture, and most of them were fully dependent on the nutritious potato. When the crop began to show the brown splotches, then putrophy on the ground, huge numbers of people had nowhere to turn. They were soon caught up in numbers of people had nowhere to turn. They were soon caught up in the strained political entanglements at the heart of Ireland's links to Great Britain. As a leading historian of the Great Famine, Christine Keneally has said, with Ireland's quasi-colonial status within the British Empire, the United Kingdom was far from united. No legacy of the famine is more embittered than the role of British policies and imperial attitudes towards the Irish people in their time of greatest travail. Douglas observed the horrors of Irish poverty, as well as the beginnings of the famine, although he could not have fully comprehended its causes and consequences at the time. As he barnstormed through Ireland, lecturing his host to reject the analogy of Irish suffering with American slavery, and demanding they open their Christian hearts as they fought with their own racial hypocrisies, a vast tragedy of mass death from hunger had begun its sweep through the Irish peasantry. The modern Irish writer Cole Toibin remarked that contemporary literate observers of the ravages of the famine tended to write with a mixture of flat description, while desperately trying to describe the indescribable. He quotes one withering first-hand account from 1846 of the dead at an Irish hut near the hole that serves as a doorway is the last resting place of 2 or 3 children. In fact, this hut is surrounded by a rampart of human bones which have accumulated to such a height in the threshold. The ground is now 2 feet beneath it. These people had not been shot in a civil war, but had simply dropped dead from starvation. In this horrible den, the account continues, in the midst of a mass of human putrefaction, 6 individuals, males and females, laboring under the most malignant fever, were huddled together. Laboring under most malignant fever, were huddled together as closely as were the dead in the graves around. Douglas did not see this kind of death scene, but he saw the extreme poverty and wretchedness of the Irish huts. He was awed by them, and his prose was both inspired and stymied by them. In a public letter to Garrison in February 1846, he had moved on to Scotland. Douglas took time to reflect on what he had seen of Ireland. As the American abroad, he felt compelled to expose other evils than slavery. I am not, in quotations, I am not only an American slave, he wrote, but a man, and as such am bound to use my powers of the welfare of the whole human brotherhood. I am not going through this land with my eyes shut, ears stopped, or heart stilled. For the moment, he put aside his disdain for the analogy between Irish misery and American slavery. Too many self-styled philanthropists maintain Douglas care no more about Irishmen than they care about the whipped, gagged, and thumb-screwed slave. They would as willingly sell on the auction block an Irishman if it were popular to do so as an African. Now it was he making the equivalences between 2 kinds of suffering and evil. Although Douglas only glimpsed the famine's beginnings, he did seem to comprehend what Christine Keneally observes, quotations, one of the most lethal subsistence crises in modern history occurred within the jurisdiction of and in closely proximity to the epicenter of what was the richest empire in the world. In his 6 weeks of wandering around the Dublin region, Douglas witnessed so many painful exhibitions of human misery that the fugitive slave from the sandy soil of the eastern shore could only blush. The streets everywhere were literally alive with beggars, many only stumps of men without feet, without legs, without hands, without arms. Douglas recounted being surrounded by more than a dozen, at one time, all telling a tale of woe. The little children in the street at a late hour of night, leaning against brick walls, fast asleep. Parents nowhere to be seen, especially shocked him. He bothered with no abstractions, nor made any distinctions. Here between the slave boy scrambling for food at a trough and homeless, starving child of famine, Douglas vicariously understood abandonment from his own childhood. One can read such impulse in his descriptions of the Irish children, with none to look upon them, none to care for them. If they have parents, they have become vicious and have abandoned them. Poor creatures. They are left without help to find their way through a frowning world. The Fred Bailey who had waited at Miss Lucretia's window for morsels of food as he sang for attention, stood awestruck at the starving Irish. Douglas saw many of the Irish peasant huts, of all places to witness human misery, ignorance, degradation, filth, and wretchedness. Wrote Douglas, an Irish hut is permanent. After a long description of their dark bleakness and suffocating space, he could not resist his Garrisonian abolitionist sense of irony at the presence of a picture representing the crucifixion of Christ, pasted on the most conspicuous place on the wall, in quotations. Just reading these comments. Getting a lot of love from Brazil. Shout out to Brazil. appreciate everybody tuning in, man, and supporting the channel. I really do. Hope someone's learning something, gaining some knowledge and some information. But stay tuned, you know, and definitely got more content coming. Definitely have a lot more content coming, and we'll take it from there. Stay healthy, stay safe, stay out the way, and just continue to stay motivated, man. And whatever it is you love, and whatever it is you love to do, you know, do that and do it for that, you know, for those reasons, you know. But y'all have a good night. Take care. I'm about to go make something to eat, man. It's getting late and it's I'm hungry, man. Worked out, read, but it was a good weekend to recover, good weekend to refresh and get everything back on alignment, and hope it was the same for y'all. All right, later.